Hi, guys. It's almost, well, it is lunchtime. It's noon. Happy Tuesday. I'm not seeing all the weigh-ins quite yet, but I just want to congratulate those who are weighing in. First of all, number one, um, we really appreciate you weighing in. The good, the bad, the ugly. We want to see it all with you guys. So congrats on that. But also, number two, I'm seeing some pretty good weigh-ins this week. So I'm very happy about that. We're continuing our non-COVID coaching this week, and I want to talk about um, becoming your own best friend by really loving the voices that are in your head. We have spent so many hours of coaching on this page talking about the dealing with the voices that are in your head, and we have them good, we have the bad voices. And there's really no perfect way or solid concrete way to quiet the negative voices. That's the sad part. You just can't get around it. But what we can do is talk about flipping the script quite a bit and learning to listen to the good voices in your head. So let's talk about this. I'm not COVID coaching, but this whole pandemic has caused a lot of us to go through these time periods of thinking, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. With all of our lives slowing down, I think we all have these moments of, I should be more productive, or I should be going outside, or I should be, able to keep my crap together because my kids are being homeschooled and I still have to do laundry, like all those things. So if you're like me, at the very beginning of this pandemic, I really had a lot of, I should be fill in the blanks. They are much less now, and I'm very thankful. And as I've shared with you guys now, there's a lot of parts and pieces of my new routine that I love, and I will never go back completely to my old routine. I will carry these things forward. So in a lot of ways, I'm very thankful for this pandemic. Yeah, Margaret, that's a great one. I should be working out. I should be doing that. And so we beat ourselves up with the shoulds, and it gets exhausting. But you've got to realize that voice that you're hearing is being amplified with negative thoughts. All these I should be fill in the blanks are all negative thoughts. And often when we hear those negative thoughts, that's our inner critic, right? Our inner critic talking to us. These phrases or words sound like absolutes, right? I could never do this. I will never be able to do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not losing weight fast enough. I'm not. And all those sound like absolutes. And those can become very, very deadly. Now, besides the obvious of how self-talk is horribly toxic for ourselves, let me just throw this out there as well. Self-talk can actually affect your hormones in a very negative way. It absolutely can. Because when you think about negative self-talk, that's likely going to rise your cortisol levels. And when your cortisol levels are raised, you're going to slow down the whole weight loss process. Everything will be off kilter. So just keep that in mind. Also, your self-talk, your negative self-talk is also affecting your hormones. So let's take this a step further. Right now, I want you to acknowledge the two people that live in your head. Your biggest critic and your biggest advocate, right? We all have it. Those two people that live on the side of our shoulders, our biggest critic and our biggest advocate. So you have to acknowledge the biggest critic. You have to. You have to acknowledge it. And as much as we want to say, shut up, you have to acknowledge it in order to recognize it and to unpack all this, like peel the onion, as I would say. So if you think about it this way, when you hear the inner critic voice, like what causes you to hear that? But then even more importantly, what does that voice sound like? Does it sound like your parent? Does it sound like a mean teacher? Does it sound like a mean coach that you've had? Like generally when we hear that inner critic, it sounds like an authoritative figure, right? We're supposed to be looking up to this person. And when we hear this person, that inner critic speak, It sounds absolute, and it sounds almost as if this voice has some authoritative power over us, but that's a lie. So now think about your best friend, that little inner advocate that you have, that person that's rooting for you, that person that is complimenting you. We all have that. Like, you put on a really great outfit and you're like, oh, you don't look so bad today. Or, I am a pretty good mom. Like, we all have that inner advocate as well. The problem is that authoritative figure, which is the inner critic voice, often squelches the inner advocate voice, because the inner advocate voice is not an authoritative voice. It's a sweet voice. It's a calming voice. It's a loving voice. And when you think about these two different types of voices that we have going on in our head, it would be logical to realize that the authoritative voice is going to put out, like a fire, like water on a fire, the loving, beautiful, calm voice. Can you guys imagine this visual? Like, if fire was a beautiful thing, right? We have this beautiful fire and it's lovely and warm and great. And along someone comes with like either a fire hose or a garden hose or a big old bucket, and they throw it on this great peaceful fire. Well, like, the fire is your best friend. It's this sweet, loving thing. And someone comes out, so your inner critic voice comes in like a fire hose and blows away, puts out the beautiful fire, blows away any positive inner advocate thoughts that are happening. So realizing all this, if you can realize, wow, this inner critic sounds like my mother or my dad or that butthead teacher that I had or that volleyball coach that I hated. And then the inner advocate voice, the one that is cheering you on, sounds like a loving friend. Or maybe you had a very nurturing mother. Maybe it was the compliments that you got from your dad. They were sweet and lovely, right? So if you can visualize these two things and realize that both are going to happen, and that if you dwell on the inner critic, that principle, that authoritative voice, those absolutes, I should be doing, if you dwell on that, you will never be able to recognize or hear your inner advocate cheering you on. So how do we flip this script? As soon as you have a thought of, I can't do this. I can't do this meal plan anymore. I lost weight. I lost a bunch of weight because of COVID. I gained some back. I can't do this anymore. All right. That's your inner critic being, trying to talk you down from having success. Flip the script. Realize that what you need to be telling yourself, the inner advocate, is cheering yourself on. Yes, you can do this. You've done it once. You can lose the weight again. You know what works. Follow the plan. Drop the alcohol. As soon as you hear that inner critic voice, you have to immediately recognize it. Oh, there's that authoritative figure that thinks he understands me. No, that person doesn't. That inner voice doesn't understand you. That inner voice does not come from a place of genuine care and love. What does come from a genuine place of love and care and grace is your inner advocate. So as soon as you hear that negative voice coming, you've got to realize, wait a minute, what would my inner advocate voice say about this situation? And if you're having those thoughts right now, damn it, I lost this weight, now I've gained it back, or I had a crappy week, I was on such a good roll, and I've had a crappy week, I drank wine, I drank beer, I had too many sweets this week, I can't do this. No. The inner advocate voice would say, it's okay. You fell down. You're going to get back up. You know what works. You're going to do this. You've done it once. You can do it again. So my little challenge for you today is 1, recognize the 2 separate voices. Number 2, recognize that the inner critic voice is always going to be demeaning and authoritative. Recognize that. The inner advocate voice, the one that you trust and listen to, is the one that is sweet and loving. It's that kind little person that you have sitting on your shoulder trying to cheer you on. It's your own personal cheerleader. Don't mix up the two. Realize that the two will always, always be there, but that you have the power to flip the script and essentially say, screw you, inner critic. I'm going to listen to the inner advocate, because the inner advocate voice that I hear in my head is the loving, kind, gracious voice. And with those things, I will progress. You will never progress. Nothing positive will ever happen from listening to the inner critic voice. So recognize the two voices today. Recognize the ugliness of one, the sweetness of the other. The last thing I want you to think about is, when does the inner advocate voice become strong in your life? When does that inner advocate voice become strong in your life? Let me tell you a really quick story and then I'm done. This will sound so completely vain, but I'm so glad I started this. When this pandemic started, I, as you guys know, and I've joked about it, when it started, I made a pledge to myself that I would get up every day, I would shower, and I would put on real clothes. And I said to Margaret Bush weeks ago, I said, you know, it's funny. Now that I've been working at home for nearly 2 years, once this pandemic started, I started wearing more of my real clothes than I ever have in the last 2 years. So what changed? It was me just saying, I'm going to get up every day during this mess, even though my life really hasn't changed a whole lot because I've been working at home for 2 years. And I'm going to take a shower for the most part, put on makeup, do my hair, and put on real clothes. And then when I go work out, I will put on my workout clothes. So I noticed that my inner advocate voice started to get louder and louder in a beautiful way as I started posting pictures every single day. Now, this was not about the compliments of, oh, you're cute, or I like your shoes, or your hair looks good today. It wasn't about those compliments. What it was for me as a very visual person, and maybe you guys are a very visual person as well, was me seeing day after day after day that I didn't look like crap. That, I kind of like how my real clothes are fitting on me. And so it became this exercise of me, follow me here, of me being able to quiet the inner critic, all these crazy thoughts I had in my head of how I looked, how I thought I looked, how out of shape I thought I was, how really not pretty I thought I was. And then when I consistently was posting pictures of myself, putting myself together every day, I realized, I still am in good shape. I still like the way my clothes fit on me. So it was this exercise, it has been this exercise of being able to quiet the inner critic and really realize and accept this inner advocate. And it has been probably one of the greatest exercises I have personally done for myself. So whatever it's going to take for you to figure out how to quiet that inner critic and accept and love the inner advocate so that you hear that more than you hear the inner critic, you've got to think about that today. I know that's a big task. For me, it was those pictures. I can't define what it's going to be for you today, but really think about that. And heck, if it is those pictures, start posting them on your page. Or if you don't feel comfortable posting them on your public page, like your main profile picture page, your main Facebook profile, put them on our client page. It's an incredible way to show up for yourself every day and be like, you look okay today. Figure what that is for you. I hope all this makes sense, but just realize that you have these two voices. They're battling for your attention every single day, but that you have the power. You have the power to flip the switch. Bye, you guys.